3. Exacerbation of capitalist contradictions and the development of state monopoly capitalism. Acceleration of state monopoly capitalism. The development of state monopoly capitalism is driven by the exacerbation of capitalist contradictions. False theories. Monopoly bourgeoisie falsely claim that monopolies soften capitalist contradictions, while in reality, imperialism exacerbates them. Contradiction of capitalism. The main contradiction is between the social nature of production and private capitalist appropriation. Lenin's view. Capitalism in its imperialist stage leads towards socialization of production but remains privately appropriated. Class oppression. Monopolies increase the oppression of the majority by a few monopolists, intensifying class contradictions. Imperialism as a driving force. Lenin described imperialism as decaying capitalism and the precursor to the proletarian socialist revolution. Class struggle. The development of monopolies leads to increased worker exploitation and intensifies class struggles in capitalist countries. Economic crises and collapse. Capitalism is headed towards collapse, evidenced by crises and the emergence of giant trusts. Impoverishment and reaction. Monopoly capital increases impoverishment, political reaction, and national oppression. Growing proletariat resistance. Discontent and unity among the proletariat grow, increasing their struggle against exploiters. Revolutionary potential. Imperialism forces the proletariat to choose between submission or revolution. General crisis of capitalism. This period is marked by economic and political upheavals and the eventual collapse of capitalism. Global division. The world splits into two systems, dying capitalism and growing socialism, during the general crisis. Contradiction between systems. The contradiction between socialism and capitalism influences proletariat struggles. Colonial oppression and liberation. Imperialism intensifies oppression in colonies, leading to resistance and national liberation movements. Combination of struggles. The revolutionary struggle of the working class in capitalist countries combines with colonial liberation movements during the general crisis. The general crisis of capitalism includes a crisis in the colonial system of imperialism. Imperialist rule in colonies hinders economic development, making them primarily suppliers of agricultural products and raw materials to metropolitan countries. Despite exploitation, some industrial growth occurs in colonies, particularly in mining and light industries, leading to urbanization and the rise of an industrial proletariat. During and after World War I, some colonial and dependent countries began developing capitalism and competing with established capitalist countries, complicating market struggles. World War I and the success of the socialist revolution in the USSR weakened imperialism's hold on colonies, boosting national liberation movements. The industrial proletariat in colonies became leaders in the struggle against imperialism, aligning with the proletariat in metropolitan countries. This united front transformed colonies from imperialist reserves into reserves for proletarian revolution. In the second stage of capitalism's crisis, national liberation struggles intensified, leading to the collapse of the colonial system. To maintain dominance, the financial oligarchy increasingly relied on state power to suppress revolutionary and national liberation movements. Lenin, in State and Revolution, noted the growth of state machinery, bureaucracy, and military to repress the proletariat under imperialism. Imperialism intensified contradictions between monopolists and imperialist states due to market, resource, and investment competition. Monopolies used political and criminal means to suppress competitors internationally. Imperialism shifted from expanding colonial policy to monopolistic land possession, increasing tensions between imperialist powers. Lenin's law of uneven capitalist development led to periodic world redivisions through military conflict, intensifying imperialist contradictions. Kautsky's ultra-imperialism theory, suggesting smooth capitalist development, was criticized by Lenin as misleading. World wars highlighted imperialist contradictions, weakening imperialism and enabling revolutions. Uneven capitalist development and intensified inter-imperialist conflicts accelerated state monopoly capitalism's growth. World War I advanced state monopoly capitalism's development significantly. Lenin observed that the war pushed global capitalism towards state monopoly capitalism, with significant nationalization of industries. During 1914 to 1918, two imperialist power groups existed: one led by England and France with vast wealth and territories, the other by Germany, more aggressive and seeking to redivide the world. Germany's advanced state monopoly capitalism fueled its post-war recovery and international ambitions. Post-war struggles for world redivision and internal German contradictions accelerated state monopoly capitalism's development in Germany. Japan's emergence as an imperialist power. Japan became a significant imperialist force in the 20th century, demanding a share in the redivision of the world, driven by the rapid concentration of production and monopolies. State monopoly capitalism. Both Japan and the major capitalist countries, the USA and England, experienced rapid development of state monopoly capitalism due to the internal and external contradictions and the impacts of the Second World War. Impact of World War II. The war accelerated the development of state monopoly capitalism, enriching American and British monopolies and increasing their economic role while deepening the general crisis of capitalism. Capitalist contradictions. The contradictions in capitalism led to intensified anarchy in production, competition, and economic crises. Monopolies did not eliminate competition but rather intensified it, creating acute contradictions. Role of monopolies. Monopolies use both economic and political means, including state apparatus, to dominate weaker competitors. Antitrust laws serve as a facade while monopolies continue to suppress competition. Economic crises. Bourgeois economists falsely claimed that monopolies would eliminate crises. Lenin argued that crises are inevitable in capitalism and are exacerbated by monopolies, making them more destructive. General crisis of capitalism. The period saw intensified contradictions, with falling countries from imperialist systems and market issues becoming acute, leading to underutilization of enterprises and chronic unemployment. Market problems and unemployment. After World War II, new countries fell from imperialist systems, leading to worsening market problems, underutilization of enterprises, and mass unemployment, especially in colonial regions. Changes in capitalist cycle. Economic crises became more frequent and severe, with shortened cycles and prolonged phases of depression. Between the two world wars, 3 significant economic crises occurred. Crisis and contradictions. The crises of the imperialist era intensify contradictions within capitalism, leading the monopoly bourgeoisie to use the state to maintain dominance and shift crisis burdens onto the working class. State regulation. The development of state intervention in the economy is seen as a response to crises, exemplified by the U.S. actions during the Great Depression and militarization efforts in Germany, Italy, Japan, and the U.S. during the 1930s and post-World War II. State monopoly capitalism. This form of capitalism arises from the decay of capitalism, highlighting the clash between productive forces and capitalist production relations. It involves increased exploitation of workers through state machinery. Class and inter-imperialist struggles. State monopoly capitalism strengthens monopolists in their struggle against the proletariat and in inter-imperialist competition. Bourgeois state role. The bourgeois state, historically supportive of capitalism, now defends its outdated foundation, delaying societal progress and resisting revolutionary and liberation movements. Militarization and repression. Growing armies and militarization are linked to imperialist conflicts and efforts to suppress revolutionary movements. The expansion of bureaucratic and repressive apparatuses, like police forces, supports this. Monopolist strategies. Monopolists use state power to undermine the labor movement through repressive laws and by co-opting union leaders to divide workers. Contradictions and crises. State monopoly capitalism fails to resolve capitalism's contradictions, exacerbating production anarchy, competition, and crises. Fascism and reaction. Imperialist Germany's state monopoly capitalism led to fascism, reflecting the extreme reactionary nature of monopoly capital. Similar reactions are observed in the U.S. inevitability of collapse. Despite efforts to maintain dominance, capitalism's global collapse is seen as inevitable, with socialism as the alternative path for humanity. Lenin argued for socialism as the necessary transition to overcome capitalism's destructive tendencies. Choice of the working masses. The people of the USSR and people's democracies have chosen socialism over continued capitalist oppression.